First of all, I want to thank everyone for attending. My name is Paul Lesher. I will be handling the first half of the webinar, and then George will be taking the second half. Today, we're going to talk about our usual updates and then a little bit more about MERS and the transition to Empower. We're going to go over a recap of the year's changes, the what we have on the table for ProFund. We're going to be hosting a summer training events, and then also, as we sent out an email a little while ago, I'll be covering the October billing increase. So for updates for payroll, in deduction types, we added an active status flag. So you can now make deduction codes inactive, kind of like you can make like an employee inactive or a customer inactive. If you make them inactive, it won't show up on the when you load deduction types, it won't show up on the list anymore.
They'll still calculate.
It will still calculate inactive deductions if the employee still has them active. So we didn't stop that. So you have to make them inactive on the employee to have them not calculate or not add them to the list. We added the ability to adjust existing authorized zones by typing the coordinates in the bottom box. We now allow admins in Cogitate to delete employee history entries under the employment tab. We added a field in employees menu item called eligibility. This field is found next to it's in the license field in the personnel tab. It's used for the MERS export file for if you have multiple plans, you can now enter the plan numbers separated by comma. So even if they're not actively participating, but Empower wants them on the roster, you can now just type in the plan so they won't show up when you try to run it for a different plan. So we added that ability to now exclude employees from the Empower upload. So if the employee does not have, so when you're running the MERS export file, if the plan number you enter and the employee that does not have that plan number, it will not be added to the list of eligible but not participating. So if you leave the field blank, the employee will still be included in the list. So, and note that this is only for employees who are not contributing in the plan. If they have the deduction code and they have money for that deduction code, they will be included automatically as what they currently are. We updated the quarterly tax report menu item to account for the fact that the state of Michigan EAN might not be 7 digits if the seventh digit is 0. I know we've had some issues with that where they say it's supposed to be a 7 digit number, but if the seventh digit is a 0, you get an error trying to upload your MIUI quarterly tax unemployment file. So we got that corrected. So now you can type in a 6 or a 5 or whatever you need to. So also we updated the MIUI wage report to include all employees that are active, including those who have no wages. We spent some time digging into exactly who should be included on that report, and we came to the conclusion that any active employee, whether they earned wages or not, should be reported in the quarterly tax report menu item. So if you're wondering why there's some extra people, and maybe there's some people that should be inactive that are active. So just want to make you aware that we did add all active employees. We also determined that all non-elected active employees should be included. This does include election workers, commissioners, and appointed employees. We fixed an issue in the employee comp package where you would click no to delete a manual bank adjustment and yes to cancel. For some reason, the yes and no's were working backwards, so we got that corrected. In inventory, we added an acquire next purchase order number button to purchase orders. So when you click on new, it doesn't automatically assign a purchase order but a number. But now you can now click a button and it will assign the purchase order number to it that it would have on save. So you don't have to save it or fill it out to get a purchase order number. So you can click the button to, while editing a new PO, to reserve the next PO number for that paid purchase order. Otherwise, it'll work as it has been. It will be assigned automatically when you save. Now, the thing is, if you assign one and then cancel the creation of that new one, that PO number will be used. So the next time you create a new purchase order, it will be the next number in that line. So that purchase order number then will just disappear. So just be aware of that. So for vendors, we fixed vendors so multiple users can have vendors open at the same time. Then for general, we added consistent effective date validation to our post programs, payroll calculation, borrow journals, and other code throughout pro fund accounting. So we kind of added more date validation. There was an issue in PFA settings where the menu item column, you could edit the column on the confirmation message grid. So we removed that. In reports, we fixed an issue in the time card item audit report where the imported by was the incorrect person. We were pulling it from the employee list and not the users list. So now that has been updated. So it'll show the proper imported by. Also, for if you're wondering, the audit date on that time card is in UTC, which is 4 hours ahead of EST during daylight savings time, or 5 hours when it ends. So right now it is 4 hours ahead. So right now it's 10:10, I believe. Then it would be six. That would be what 2:10 UTC. So, and then in November through February, it's 5 hours. So, just so you're aware, that date, even though you thought the employee entered it at 2 o'clock, it won't show 2 o'clock Eastern. It'll show whatever the equivalent is in UTC. We updated the distribution report to run with the new report engine. It now allows drill down by type for both monthly and yearly totals under each account. We added a parameter for condensed or standard report format and control group page breaks when the next control group cannot fit on the same page in the distribution report. Added yearly detail for all categories, drill down. You had a drill down and click capability when clicking on the full accounts in the distribution report. We added sort by effective date, journal number, and journal line number within the accounts in the inventory usage by code and account report. So Brett has done a lot of work with the distribution report, and he is still continuing to work on it based on feedback. So we are still making changes to the distribution report. So I'm going to go ahead and go back a minute to the beginning of my payroll and go and show off some of our updates. So in payroll, we did deduction types. We added a new status called active, inactive. So let me pick one,
I gotta get back.
make it inactive, and if I hit save, it now removes it from the list. So it's just a simple active, inactive, and we will be updating all the deduction reports to reflect that change. In authorization zones, we now add the ability to, we just create a new one, save it, and now you could click adjust with these coordinates, and you could change the coordinates, bigger one, and then you hit save, the box change. So you could adjust the coordinates if you need to adjust without having to create a new box or to try to get it just right. So in employees and employment, we now added this X. So if you're an admin, you can now delete the history in case you entered it incorrectly. Only admins have that ability. In personnel, I believe it is personal licensing. There it is, licensing. We added, this is where you type in your MERS plan number that this employee is eligible for. Even if he's not participating in it, you could type it in there so he won't appear on the list. Then when you go into MERS export file and you type in that, if you type in that plan number, he'll be included on the roster as an employee who is participating but not eligible, who is eligible but not participating. So let me go back there. It's if you go to employees, personnel, next to license, it is this field right there. You can enter them by its comma separated values. So in quarterly tax report, this you can now have We now limit it. You can now have you don't have to have 7 characters, and it'll create and save that account number. And if I close and reopen, it's that number. Then an employee comp package. I don't know if I have any as a bank. If I have a history, let's add an adjustment then. And now I can go ahead and click yes, and it deletes it. All right. And for inventory, in purchase orders, when you click new, this little button right here is acquire next purchase order, and it just fills it out. So that way, if you need to create a new one to get the purchase order right away, you can. And that's 426. So if I hit cancel and then I hit new, it'll be 427. So it'll keep up adding more if you just cancel it without saving. But that way you can instantly get a new purchase order number if you need that without having to fill out purchase order lines or anything like that. All right, I think that's all I needed to show for inventory. And then these are the reports. So before I go into the next topic, does anybody have any questions about our updates? All right, I am not seeing anything in the questions, so I'm going to get to our next topic, which is our support fee increase. Now, we sent out an email a couple of months ago about the increase coming in October, and I just wanted to highlight that again. Our support fees for ProFund will go from $951.33 a month to $987.50, which is a $36 increase per month. My work will be increasing by $10 per month from 105 to 115, help cover the costs of
505. You said 105.
105 to 100 to 515.
You, not 105.
500, sorry, 505 to 515.
Okay, that scared me.
So it'll be increasing by $10 a month, and that'll help cover the costs of increased costs in our data center, and that LEAP code will be increasing by $25 per month from 50 to 75 to help support some of the changes in the software and increasing that cost as well. So, like I said, we sent this out before. I just wanted to reiterate that. And then, so I'm just gonna go ahead and move on to the MERS. So back at the end of March, MERS switched from MERS to whatever they were using to Empower. We have been informed by several road commissions that the GPP file that we provide is for smaller plans is not currently being accepted by Empower. We were working with Luce County on that, and their file still was being rejected, even though on their website it says that use this file format. So we're not sure what's going on there. We're waiting for Empower. They had said they'll be available starting in May for questions. Now, I worked with them a little bit in December, but as for some reason, as soon as they found out that I wasn't a municipality or government entity, they stopped talking to me. I've sent them a couple emails. I haven't gotten any responses from them because I told them I was developing the software, and after that, I haven't heard from them. So I may have just go ahead and give Empower a call because I'm not sure what's going on with that, but we're kind of waiting to see what they say. So as far to my knowledge, we haven't gotten any calls on anyone using the PDI payroll uploader. That seems to be working correctly. So if you're having issues with your MERS exporting the MERS files into Empower, please give us a call and we will make the necessary adjustments if there is any to make. But if you're not using if you're using the Empower but not our export file and would like to do so, outlaid some steps for you to follow. You could always call us if you like a little more detail or aren't sure, but these are just some quick steps. Okay, so Luce to get back there's waiting on for MERS to give us. Okay. So when you get permission, let me know if it actually works. So that'll be good to know that the file format that we got was correct. And for the GPP, the one thing I don't know is if the file format is unique for each Empower login or it's the same across all municipalities. That I don't know. But you can either set up a deduction code or use your existing one and specify the retirement plan type as MERS. And then once you specify the plan type as MERS, then you specify the MERS plan type within that. And if the contribution source is employee or employer. So you want to specify if it's a 457, a healthcare savings plan, a defined contribution, or defined benefit. Those are the four MERS plan types that we currently have. And then you run the MERS export file menu item. You select the year and month, and then you click the load payroll button. You select the payroll and MERS deduction. The payroll list for the month will load, and then the MERS deduction codes will load. And then you click the calculate MERS data to create the information for the file. And then you could click the MERS, create MERS, it's supposed to be PDI file button to create the upload file. And then go back one. And then that's kind of the process that we have. So I'm going to show a little bit of that here. There are more than one way to set up MERS. You could do, if you're doing like an employer contribution, you could set up a benefit. That's one thing we might cover this summer as part of our Zoom meetings. But in deduction types, you set up a MERS like this one's already has MERS, specify MERS. You select the MERS plan types, whether it could be a loan payment, they do have that, and then the contributing source for the deduction code. And then when you go into the MERS export file, you select the plan type. I don't know if I have any. Mine was a 457. Okay. Well, May 2024. It loads the payroll data, your MERS deduction codes, your plan number assigned to the 457 plan. And then you click calculate and load your data. And then if you're a larger road commission, you create the PDI file. If you're a smaller plan, rather not road commission, but plan, then you create the GPP file. So, and then MERS, once the full transition is made to Empower, we will remove the MERS legacy file, but we're going to keep it there for the time being. So, all right, I'm going to pause there. Does anybody have any questions on MERS before I hand it over to George to do the rest of the presentation?
Good morning, everybody. All right, so I'm going to be covering today's year recap of what we did last year to kind of get an understanding of all the things that we have changed in case you missed one of our things, or you get a little bit of a highlight, say, oh, they did this, I should look into it. And it's also just helpful to, see that, we have been doing quite a lot of work. Most of this year was consumed in taxes, although we did have a couple of interesting things that came up. Can everybody hear me okay? I think you can because Paul was just here, so you should be able to hear me just fine. If not, let me get one shout out from somebody who says, yes, I can hear you. Very good. Okay, thank you. I just want to make sure because it'd be like, oh yeah, I got through my whole presentation, but the microphone was muted. All right. So year recap. We had a lot of general changes to the whole overall software. And one of the general changes that happened was the document management, which was kind of a big thing, as they say, that allows you to scan and attach PDF documents to, various PFA items, like pro fund accounting items is PFA. But basically, the idea here is like if I had a inventory code and I wanted to attach, oh, this was, a reason why we have this code, or this is instructions for the code, we could scan and attach instructions on how to install that piece of inventory. If it's a part or if it's things that you might do like road materials, you may want to attach a billing sheet or a delivery sheet, scan that and attach it. Things like AP, of course, if you have the invoices, you want to attach those. You may even want to attach a scan of the payment, a PDF of a payment statement, and attach it to the invoice or attach it to the vendor. Just a lot of different things that, for employees, you'd be attaching, be scanning and attaching their W-2s, although we have a different management for that. But you would, there's several things that, you would have a signature that you'd want to be able to put in as a document, scan it, and attach it. So that's what document management provides you. You need to set it up, of course. The idea is that there's a centralized delivery system, and that centralized delivery system for the documents themselves would be shared then by everybody who's using ProFund. So it wouldn't just be one person's desktop. We also updated email processing throughout the whole system to be modernized. So where before we were struggling just trying to get Microsoft Mail or Gmail or any of the other bigger boys to play. At this point, we've modernized it. We've used their new authentication rights and things like that. We send the email via their new API sends and not, an old standard that is no longer being supported because of security risks. So again, all email has been being sent the new way. And we've also added exposure to our internal one that we use for Cogitate. Just in case nothing else works, we have that as a backup. Now, this one is kind of, more for us, but there was just a lot of memory issues and consistency issues with every window in the software. There were some windows where you go into that, for you, it's like a menu item. You'd go into that menu item, you'd see the window, and you'd close the window. It would hold on to a whole bunch of memory items. And so the more and more you did that, eventually the system would run out of memory on some bizarre location that we couldn't understand why. And we boiled it down to several of our windows and things like that. So we've addressed that. We've been making changes. You may have seen the message when you've done some of our other utilities where it says we have to close the program because of the issue. That is that is the reason why we couldn't get our vendor. They're still working on doing a fix to make it not happen. But until then, we didn't want you to continue to have you go into three things and then you try to do a payroll calc or something. And during the payroll calc, it runs out of memory and you get some bizarre values coming out. So just to maintain consistency. And then there was just a lot of things in each window, or some things were, just consistency issues, so that the things work the same on most of the windows. We've also been updating our help screens and system to stay concurrent with the application. So again, F1 is now your friend again. It's no longer, archaic old thing. We've been keeping that up to date as best we can. Of course, it tends to get kind of the short shrift, but I actually have people on that now. So our help and video system should be staying relatively current with when we make changes to the software. The other general change we did was a while back ago this year was the font size. We used to have something inside our software that would change the font for just our software. This turned out to not work so well with a lot of different pieces, mainly internally for us. So what we did is we decided to just utilize the Microsoft font size. So whatever the Microsoft font size is for your computer, that's what we'll be using. That way, when our program starts up, we have a way of gleaning information based on that. So you can change your Microsoft font size at any time. And so like for me, I've got mine, cranked up pretty high because I'm getting older and I can't see the screen as well. But again, we're making sure our windows reflect that and honor those settings. Inventory changes. We did a lot of inventory changes this last year. Inventory maintenance, we added a user-friendly restocking page so that when you go into there, we are able to get the settings for restock inventory a lot cleaner, and it makes more sense. We did the new purchase orders. We do allow custom printout layouts. So if you look at your purchase order layouts, there's a whole slew of, colors and codes. And do you want, how do you want the printout to look? So there's settings you can do. They are system level settings. So obviously we want to stay consistent. We don't want one person printing out a purchase order that looks different from another. But you can at least go in and set those as well as add your own logo and things like that to make it more custom. Then, of course, with inventory, we also added the restock inventory, which allows a whole lot more selection of individual items you wish to do. So instead of before it was you'd click it and it would just do everything and put out POs for everything. Now you can pick which inventory you want. If you want to change which vendor it's going to, we pick which vendor we think it should go to. But if you want to change on that screen which vendor it does go to, you can change all of that on the screen before you generate the purchase order. Payables. So in payables, we did quite a bunch of changes as well. We updated the pay invoices to our new style of window, which gives you a better control over things and seeing you can drill down on certain things and see more information for during the pay invoice cycle. So you can get a better, if you're going to do a partial payment, things like that. We also added the ability to create ACH payments now for payables, so you can generate a file that you can send to your bank to make those payments directly. And we have all the pieces to set up for that to go and reporting for that. Payroll changes we did. The biggest one some didn't like, but eventually there's a reason for some of our madness. But we released the employee maintenance. We redid that as two separate menu items. One mainly just for employee information, and the other is for the payroll settings for that employee. So yeah, we call it employee comp, and we call the other one employee. Some people liked it all together. Obviously, though, there's issues where things are coming that as things they expand, it becomes very complicated of a screen to have to go through. We're trying to simplify, some things but still maintain the flexibility that we have. We also updated the W-2 calculation to include the one big beautiful bill, which we weren't planning on doing, but that just, obviously that came across quickly. So we were able to do that with the accuracy that we normally do. And we were able to get that completed before the deadlines were required, where a lot of places had to rely on the fact that you just plugged a number in. Then of course, we had to convert the MyWAM file to the new MUI format. There's still I think some things going on with that Paul covered, and that's still an ongoing part, but this was a big change that we had to spend a lot of time last year going to keep things up to date. And of course, we just did the MERS format to Empower. So again, a whole nother set of changes we were forced to make with not knowledge that this was even coming. We created my work time card missing view. So we added a button in the system to be able to see who's missing time cards for a given day. And, that was something that was requested. And so we got that as done. General ledger changes. So again, I'm going through these pretty quickly, just kind of as a recap, as a guide. The idea here is that you can get a understanding, if you say, oh, I didn't know they had that now. General ledger changes that we've done. We updated GL Post, and now permits pending journals GL Post, and now we can have pending journals for any one of the GL Post entries that you want, where before it was you couldn't leave it pending, but now you can, as well as you can now duplicate any of them. So if you have an older style of something that you have to do month after month, you have to post the same thing but with just different dates, you can now duplicate one and put in the new set of dates, and it will duplicate that journal. We created an Act 51 helper. Again, most people didn't realize that was completed this year. It generates your first 17 pages of the Act 51 based on information, and we created a tool to help set that up in your chart of accounts so that you don't have to manually go in and do every line, but it's a tool that will go through it gets roughly about a 90% average, we figure, as far as completions. Again, and the tool, it is very helpful to have to see what it all generates. It's really comprehensive, the Excel spreadsheet we generate. So again, if you haven't looked at it, please go ahead and do that, and make sure, remember, there's a tool in the tools area that will set up the Act 51 to it. We also updated many utilities to show the new style of windows. So what that means is we did like cost of roads, fringe spread. What?
They're here. They're doing the demo for our server room.
Yeah.
They
have to wait till we're done.
Right. They haven't started yet, but he just wanted to know, just to confirm, you wanted one door.
Yeah.
To the hallway.
Yeah.
Got it. Okay.
Good. All right. Sorry about that. We're moving offices within the building, and they're constructing the new building, and the guy's finally here to do the work, and now he had a question. Anyways, going back to, I forgot to mute it, but we'll take that out of the video when we upload it. Again, there's just a lot of different little windows that we did inside of the general ledger area to get it to the new style windows. Reports, I was going to have a whole list of reports here, but the list got to be so big. Basically, we've done a lot of different reports. The most recent, obviously, has been the distribution report with what we're still working on it. We're still adding things. So again, sorry, I don't have all the list here. I just wanted to make sure, though, that you did know that a lot of reports have been converted over to the new Intel reports. And eventually, someday, we will get the final as of those done, and we won't have to have the limitations that we have in the current Crystal reporting that's forcing us to make this change anyways. Okay, so moving on from last year. So that's kind of our last year. There's just tons of other things with little projects we did here and there. My work had a couple of things that was done. We added the employee events to my work during the time. So again, I didn't really cover my work too much, but we've been doing a lot of activity here, obviously here for this last little bit. I want to talk a little bit about our current projects that have that are in works for this. So this would be like a preview of what next year's year recap will be. These are on, a lot of these are on the cusp of getting put out. So we're updated the new invoice post and payment post to our new style of window. So that's the ARI or invoice post that you would see under customers and the payment post under customers. So what's going to happen will be the invoice post will be released first and then followed closely thereafter by payment post. But again, these are almost done and ready to go out the door. So we're expecting these to no longer than probably the 15th or the 20th of this month. You'll be seeing at least the new invoice post. And like I said, probably a couple of weeks after that, the payment post to go with it. We're updating our preventive maintenance. We've been working on that to incorporate right now Samsara, but we're building it so that we can incorporate anybody who's got a third-party package that provides a web API to make the calls for us to synchronize the data. So, and of course, the equipment maintenance is going to be set to our new style of Windows. So again, this is on the cusp. I would anticipate I'm going to be putting out a webinar notice today for Thursday to have us talk to your preventive maintenance guys and kind of show and tell from our last grouping and meeting we had of them, which was back in January, to kind of show where the screens are, what we've kind of concluded. We're going to show the interface that we have to Samsara, things like that. Again, like this is kind of on the cusp. So from that meeting and the information that we glean from, having that Zoom meeting and showing and telling where our wares are at that point, we're hoping, at least by the end of June, we will have the new preventive maintenance released. And then if somebody has a different, other than Samsara, if somebody has a different company that they need to have us interface with, please get a hold of us and we'll be glad to try to do that. Part of that is converting the work orders and work order calc to our new style of window. Again, that work has actually been done, but we've just been holding off for the new preventive maintenance so that everything kind of works together in that. It's very nice and it's got a lot of features to comes in that's much different. Again, it's just so you understand it's coming, definitely coming in June. We did get the Samsara integration to get meter reads, vehicle information, driver reports, fault codes, things like that come from the trucks that you have with Samsara, and the ability to integrate all that information into work orders and preventive maintenance. So if you're going to bring up a preventive maintenance, you will see of course, the meter reads when you get them will help indicate whether something is overdue for preventive maintenance. But then also the vehicle information, like the fault codes, they'll show up for you to be able to either specify and create a work order directly from the fault code or generate a work order task from if you have a preventive maintenance, you'll see then in the list, you can also select the fault meter that goes with it and say, yes, I want to include that to be part of this work order. So it's pretty slick so far what we have. At least we think it is. Again, Thursday will let us know from whether you guys think it is. So that's kind of what's in the works in the cooks. Oh, another thing in the works that I forgot about my work to put on the screens is my work. We're getting how much banks were used in a year. So we're getting a list of if the banks, how much did this person use in a year? And if the bank code is calculated by anniversary date, the year is based on the anniversary date. Otherwise, it's based on 1/1 to 12/31. So again, these things are coming. The My Work one is almost done. We've been testing it for the last 3 weeks, trying to work out all the there's a lot of little issues that came up in it. So we've corrected all of those. So we anticipate a release of that in 2-3 days from today, for another My Work update to expose the amount of hours used in a bank for a year. Anyway, so future plans. Our next kind of task that we're going to tackle going to be the state trunk line billing program. We want to convert that over to the new. Some of the things that we're looking at doing there is knowing if a particular state trunk line transaction was not. So again, we're working on, maybe making it a little nicer to know, oops, so we missed, somebody posted one after the billing was done. So we want to include it in this month's billing. Other than that, it's just going to be a kind of a straight conversion. It's going to do a very similar screen, similar look and feel to what we currently have. Eventually we want to add some things to it, but we're trying to not do too much enhancement while we're trying to do the conversion. We're going to be creating a 941 uploader, so because the IRS is getting close to requiring that they're only going to take electronically now 941s. So we've been, I get the emails from the IRS that is letting us know that it's getting time that they're going to require anybody that has more than 10 employees has to create a file to upload to them. So we're working on that right now to get the file specifications and another sign in for, to the IRS for, getting access to the 941 upload. We're going to be converting the inventory post to our new style window, much like we did general ledger post, but we're not sure if we're going to make it a single window or break it up into a couple of different menu windows for, things like posting fuel usage might be not the same, or posting, we don't know yet. We haven't really started this, it's just future. But my plans are that the inventory posts will have definitely, some different mechanisms to enter things into it, so it makes sense to it. Whether the screen has tabs that does it, we're not sure yet how it's going to come out in the end. But inventory post is definitely on our radar for next year to complete that. Fuel import. We have fuel import. We've had it for years. Some of you have used it. Not many know that we have fuel import. But we are going to be converting it to a new fuel import screen so that you can see. Mainly for these conversions, a lot of it is just so before it would say like, okay, give me your file. We import the file and we say we did 700 items. We don't show what items we did. We just say we did 700 items and, we imported, X amount of that. In this case, we want to show that information in a screen so you can, if you don't want to convert that piece in there, you can leave one piece out of the conversion. But basically, its idea is we convert it into memory, we show it, and then you click it, and then you save that, and that's the final step. Again, so we're going to be doing that. That will be done, by this same time this next year, obviously. And then if we have time, AP post will be the next one after inventory post, and then payroll post, and then payroll calc. But I wouldn't hold my breath for AP post or any of those, given that, the way the year is going with the IRS keep changing and Empower and all that has really, kind of taken a lot of the gusto out of the sales, if you know what I mean, for the conversions. Now, I'm going to ask any questions. Is there any questions about all of that? I'll give a chance for people to ask anything if they want. And you can unmute your mic if you want to just ask it. I don't see anything popping up, but maybe I'm not looking at the right window. Hang on. Nope, I'm good. All right. So what are these summer training events that I'm talking about? I've been asked over this last little bit to, come to different road commissions and, oh, wait. When do you think you'll be making changes to the equipment module so we can sort equipment instead of scrolling through? Again, I'm hoping those are finalized by the beginning to the middle of June is the equipment module. We're real close. I mean, like I said, we're going to have a meeting on Thursday, kind of showing and telling where we're at. If everybody thinks this is what they would like to have, then it's just a matter of a couple more weeks of doing the polish that we put onto it to make sure it's got everything button down. I'm sure we'll still miss things. So, but it'll just be, there'll be a lot of, if you've seen all of our other maintenance windows, you see, the equipment will have the two screens so you can filter and all that on the columns and the other side to look at. Oh, I just want to see equipment that has, a VIN or equipment that has, different things like that. Is it possible to update the time activity for my work report to show all active employees regardless as to whether they have punched for the day? It's really easy to miss when an employee just did not punch in for a day if their name doesn't populate. Yeah, I think we can. It would just be active employees only. I'm assuming that we don't want to see inactive employees in this list. Yeah, again, that's just a request. Send that in on, either to me or to Brett or to Paul. Just send that into our email, kind of outline better, what you were looking for it. Yeah, obviously they're saying yes, it only populates if they are punched. And I would understand, yeah, because that's the activity report showing that somebody punched in, punched out. So obviously if we don't have a punch, we don't know. But we can do people who are missing punches as well. We could add something like that. It'd probably be an option in the same report to show missing. You'd say yes, and then it would include the people who are missing. But that's just a quick 5-minute, 5-second understanding. Okay. All right, I'm going to leave the questions go at this point. We will still give time at the end. So if you'd like, get them posted in and then we can cover more questions at the end. I'd like to finish up on the summer training events, just so you understand what we're planning on doing. During the summer, which would be June, July, and August, the 3 months, we're going to be trying to host bi-weekly meeting minutes to talk about topics that are things that you guys want to look at. We're going to start with a simple topic, which, and again, in a lot of detail to look at how the process works, how does it affect your accounting. So these aren't going to just be quick little snippets. We expect them to be much more in depth and detail, showing reporting and things like that. So again, the process we're looking at for the thing here is that these are going to be more of a, how do I set up and manage a variety of parts for just make deposits. There is a lot that goes into it. There's a lot that needs to happen for it. There's a lot of settings. We want to talk about those and go much more in depth. So that's what these meetings are about. But I need topics. I can only get, I'm going to start out with one topic and then hopefully you guys can, keep feeding us what you would like us to see. And we will go into a very detailed, very long-winded, explained, a lot of in-depth looking at how that particular component works and what are the pieces behind the scenes as well as what we have for reporting and things like that. Because a lot of places don't know, oh, we have this report, never knew it. Anyway, so again, these will be Zoom meetings. We'll be using the same mechanism we do for the monthlies. This won't change our monthly meeting, just show and tell what we've been doing. But these are going to be bi-weekly meetings that will be with us so pretty much every other week, we're going to have one during the summer months. But again, topics. So you can email sales@Cogitate Inc. with any topic you'd like to see. You can email myself or Paul or Brett for any topics you'd like to see. Financial reports, yes, we could definitely do one on financial reporting and how that's tied together at the moment. But telling me here won't help me until I have an email on it so I can, put these in a proper, segment. All right, so I just wanted to tell you about that. We're planning on doing that to kind of give a little bit more. I know you have your meeting, so I'm going to try to make sure that my dates don't conflict with anybody's meetings. Like, we would want you to have the ability to come to this. So again, picking, there'll probably be out a pre-thing that says what's a reasonable, free day for people. Clearly Fridays is not good because most people have it off, but like a Thursday-ish kind of thing, or Tuesday, Tuesday or Thursday is usually what I'm thinking of a week. But once we get a set schedule, we want to kind of like stay with that schedule. I don't want to have to schedule each meeting. So we'll figure that out as well. Again, start date and time, 2BA, we'll send out the email with the information and schedule. again, I want to make sure that what we have is going to fit as many people as who would want to come to these things. And again, you don't need to make them all, come to them all. You just need to come to the one, if you've been using something and you don't really need to, cover that, you don't need to go. But it's just ideas that things that you may not even be using that Cottage State does do, but you just either weren't aware or didn't know how to set it up or didn't have time to, put it in place. And of course, we'll record these and put them up on YouTube so you guys can reference it at any time. Again, we'll try to make sure that they're available in a way that you can reach them without having to suffer through a whole bunch of looking at oh, this isn't what I want, this isn't what I want. We'll try to put more information in the topic so you can tell which ones you would like to use or talk about. All right, well, that's all I have for today as far as my information to you guys, but I wanted to give ample time because I know there's a lot of questions out there for other parts of our software, things that we've done. Oh, yes, my work is we're adding, for those who have set up the document management my work will have the ability then to show as documents their time card stubs. Not time card stubs, they're payment stubs. That's coming, but you have to have document management in place for that to work. Or a smaller version of document management if you don't want the whole blown thing, just the piece that would need for pay stubs to work. If you have a burning question and you want to get it to us, feel free to call us. You got our phone number. We're certainly open to any phone calls that you want. All right. Well, I am going to call it a day then. And everybody, you have a great afternoon and keep up the good fight, as they say. Thank you for attending.
You are now working smarter with ProFund Accounting. Thanks for watching. Be sure to like this video and subscribe to our channel for more content like this.